Good evening, everyone. I am so happy to be here. Happy Monday. Mondays are usually like that type of day when you're coming from the weekend, but listen, I had a fun day and a productive day, just as if I was on the weekend. So it's all about perspective. Today, we're going to have a lovely conversation about faith in action, what it means, because the Bible says faith without works is dead. We hear that all the time. People love to quote it, but we're going to take a deep dive into what is actually part of the works that it takes to activate that faith, to actually operate at your optimum level of faith when it comes to life and business. And I'm excited to be joined with one of my great sisters, P2P sisters, Ashley James. She's going to be diving deep. She's a self-development coach, and we're going to be, having just a heart-to-heart discussion about the realities of faith and putting it to action. She is a dual citizen of the island of Jamaica and the United States, and she's an avid purpose chaser, blogger, coach, soon to be author, and neurosurgical registered professional nurse. She is the founder of Own Your Authenticity LLC, a brand turned into business that is dedicated to empowering women to live their best lives on purpose. Her goal is to coach more women who are afraid to step out of their comfort zone so that they can truly thrive in purpose in every season of their lives. And that is amazing because, listen, thriving takes faith. So I'm glad that she's here today to discuss that with us. So let me get her on right now. And as she's coming on, tag 2 or 3 people that you know that would love to get in on this discussion of action and faith. Hey, Ashley, thank you for joining me tonight.
Problem.
So I'm going to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself.
Okay. All right. So my name is Ashley James. Thank you so much, Crystal, for having me here tonight. I am an avid purpose chaser. I feel like it is my purpose in this season to help women to thrive in every season of their lives. I feel like it is my purpose to help women to realize that they need to heal, that they need to do everything in their power so that they can thrive fully, so that they can live out their life's true purpose in this season. Yes, I do have a background in nursing. And I just feel like a part of fulfillment for me came from nursing, but now I'm here and I'm like, purpose, this is what it is. I feel like fulfillment comes truly from my purpose. I get joy from my purpose, and that's it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I feel the same way about you. Like, I'm a purpose chaser, purposepreneur. And a lot of times I want to know, like, what is your perspective on faith in business? Like, when it comes to the outside looking in, when somebody looks at you as a believer who has a business and you're operating in faith, what does that look like? Your faith and your business being, cohesive, running together, existing together.
I'm gonna tell the truth. Faith and business for me, I recently started thinking of myself as a business owner, like just recently. And so for me, faith played a pivotal role in that, because it took me so long to get things going. It took me so long to start the blog. It took me so long to actually believe that I could get it done. And so a lot of times I think what tends to happen to us is that we're so stuck on the traditional sense of things to get things going. Think about it as, oh, like, I need the money and I need the this and I need all these. Then get the faith aspect of it. Yeah. And it's like, well, if we don't believe that we can do it, we can have all the money in the world, but it will never get done. And so for me, I didn't start out as, having this big business. I started out giving God something to bless. As Patrice Washington says all the time, that's how I started. When I started out in purpose, it was more of, okay, I'm gonna try this thing out real quick. And even then was rooted in fear, not so much rooted in faith. And it took me a while to get to the point where I was confident enough to say, you know what, well, but this is what I'm doing, and this is what I feel comfortable doing, and I'm okay with that. So faith for me played a big role in where I am now, because it caused me to not so much think of, as you said, like business, the traditional sense of things, the, like this is what we have to check off and these are the things that we have to do. It caused me to say, you know what, but I have, what is it, a mustard seed sized faith, and I'm with that, and that's all I need for God to bless me and give me more.
That's amazing. That's amazing because, like for me, I resonate with that a lot because it's like a whole shift for me. Just like you, I'm coming from the medical profession. I'm a registered nurse. We're both registered nurses. And for me, it's like a whole different language you have to adapt to. And you have to like shift your mind. Of course, there's some critical thinking that comes in because, nursing laid that foundation. But I
Yeah.
feel like business is really an art. And it takes, a lot of times you just gotta like rely on God. And God is not a God that like thinks like we think. His ways are not like our ways. So there's some things that he's gonna ask you to do or ask us to do that's like, hold up, God, that don't look like how I see that successful person doing it and that successful person. He's like, listen, there's a method to what I'm doing right here because I want to get the glory. I want to use the foolish things to confound the wise. So if I accelerate you and take you here in 6 months, if I promise you that, it's not going to look like how you think that it should look. So just walk by faith and not by sight, and I'm gonna get you to your revenue goals. But and it's also like a bigger picture is bigger than us. You know what I'm saying? So I also feel like as being a purposepreneur and going into business as a faith walk, I also see it like a ministry.
Yeah.
And what is your take on that?
It is. I think that for us, like-minded, like-hearted souls, when it comes on to purpose, I think a lot of times we get scared because it's not, again, traditional. It's not what we think it's supposed to look like. And so even in like us in P2P and CTS, hearing some of the ladies talk, you're like, oh, well, I don't know if I should say this, or I don't know if I should be doing this. I don't know if anybody can. But it's like, no, there are people out here who are really waiting to hear what you have to say, waiting to see what you have, what you can do. And for us, because it's not something that we've seen before, right?
Yeah.
So like a lot more now, women are coming out, stepping out of their comfort zones. They're stepping out and saying, you know what, I want to do this thing. I don't know, but I feel like I should be doing this. And I think a lot of times we downplay the faith. We downplay what God is doing in our lives. We downplay the bigger picture, as you said before, because we're so fearful of, I don't know if it's going to work or not. And we're fearful if it could actually work. A lot of times we fear it actually, going forth and being something. And so it's funny, I was listening to Sarah Jakes Roberts. She did I don't want to say a sermon, but she did a sermon maybe like 2 weeks ago, and it was called The Revolution of You, I think it was. And she pretty much said, now is a time for women to step up and step out. Like we have greatness, we have the intuition, we have all these things on the inside of us, right? But we're so sheltered, we're so fearful, we're so rooted in insecurities that we step back and we're like, nah, nobody don't want to listen to this. It's fine, it's okay. But it truly is a ministry. And all the greatness that we have on the inside that we are withholding because of fear, we have to let out so that we can minister to our women and to our people and to the ones that are around us, because they want to hear this.
That's true, because like that testimony or just the method and the strategies that we're giving them, it's supposed to be like that groundbreaking pivotal moment for them to say, wow, you know what, she could do it, so can I. And it gives them like a light of hope, and you just point it back to Jesus. And that's, for me, that's when I would feel like fulfilled, because a lot of people are out here lost and just confused and stuck, and it's just like, I can, I've been exposed to the light, so I can show you where to go for that. And it's not like I'm perfect, but I know a little bit of the blueprint. I have a little bit of the sauce that I can lead you back to, where you can be like in a better place.
Right. And so, sorry, as you said that, it just something just came up for me, as Patrice always. if you're a solid 5 or 6,
Mm-hmm.
and you can help the ones 2 and 3s because
For sure.
you know what it is. So
For sure.
a lot of times, again, we don't think that we're the perfect 10. So now it's like, well, I can't deliver to them because I'm not the perfect 10. But it's like, no, but you have a little knowledge. You have more knowledge than they do. So you can step out and show them the way. And that's all there is to it.
Exactly. And just to take it a little step further, it's amazing because when you help those 1, 2s, and 3s, you help them transform into that 5. Now they
Right?
can go back and touch the 1, 2, and 3s that they were meant to touch, and then that becomes their ministry. That becomes their voice. Their voice is now activated because they've had that pivot. They've had that shift.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And you mentioned something earlier about, being rooted in fear. And I wanted to really touch on that because I know like we're talking about faith in action. And
Right.
I personally had a revelation last night. Well, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
have it last night, but it went deeper last night. But so when we talk about faith over fear, like I feel like that's a phrase that's been used so much, faith over fear, faith over fear. But I was reading Joshua, a couple of mornings ago, and there was a part in the story where Joshua was just having victory, taking over the lands, taking over all the lands that for Israel, and just having all the victory. And there was a group of people, I gotta go back and look at it. It was one of the ites. They came over and faked the funk because they were in fear. They're like, oh my God, you know what,
Yeah.
we heard about your God, you gonna take over the land. Listen, we're not trying to be part of all that massacre.
Right.
Let's just come over here and act like your servants. And they played it well because Joshua did not consult God. Joshua just went with whatever they were saying. Anyway, ultimately, it came out that they were lying, acting like servants when they really weren't, but they did end up serving. So I was thinking, wow, they did all of that because it was in fear. And how much more is like as servants of God and children of God, right? What are we selling out to when we operate in fear? And I believe that we're selling out, we're like moving away from the will of God, and that is sin.
Thank you.
So I don't know, I just kind of went a little deep. I was like, maybe fear is really super duper like demonic and satanic, because how can you like say that you operate in faith and you love God and you trust him and you believe that he redeemed you and you are worthy, but then every time he gives you a instruction or he's calling you, you're running away from it? And that to me is like you're just like sitting on the fence. So it's like you're not serving God, but you're not serving the enemy either. So that to me, that's like you're not advancing the kingdom, and God created you for a specific purpose. So if you're not walking in that purpose, that's sheer disobedience.
Yeah.
Period.
100%.
So I was mind blown. I was like, man, I'm gonna like do my best not to do anything like let fear cripple me to the point where I'm just like stuck. Because at that point, it's like I'm not serving God, and I'm not giving him the reverence that he deserves, because he created me for such a time as this, and I'm acting like I ain't got nothing to do. Yep. I don't know. What do you think?
Thank you for saying that. It's the part of not having something to do when you know that there's something deeply rooted inside you. And so when I started, even though I started out of fear, right? When I started to give God something to bless, I did it. Let me not say do it out of fear. I did it scared, because I was like, I'm not sure what's happening. This doesn't really career. I'm so confused. This is not supposed to be my next step. What is happening here? But I was like, you know what though? I'm gonna just roll with it and see what happens. And so purpose for me was birthed again, not from, oh my God, this is great, this is amazing, this is what my next step is supposed to look like. It was birthed because I kept feeling something on the inside of me, and I was like, all right, I'm not sure, Lord, like what is happening? And just do it. And as you said, when we shift from not just doing it, knowing that we have something to do, that is disobedience. I had started blog sites 2 to 3 years before I started this last one. And I shut it down. I was like, no, I can't do this. And I remember saying to my best friend, like, bro, I don't think people want to hear what I have to say. No. And she was like, just why not? Like, I don't understand. And I was like, I don't know. I just don't feel right. And that was my fear, and that was my insecurity. And a lot of times, I'm glad you brought this up. A lot of times we, like Jeremiah, right? God called him, said, all right, I want you to deliver these people. And Jeremiah was like, but Lord, I'm too young. And God was looking at
Mm,
him, I didn't ask you that. I didn't ask you what fears, what insecurities, what qualifications you didn't have to do the job. I sent you to
mm,
do it. That's it. That's it. So a lot of times as Christian, in business, in purpose, in whatever other ventures outside of tradition, outside of careers, outside of the church, a lot of times we feel like we're not qualified to do these things because we don't have the titles, or we don't have, like, who are we? I'm just a sinner. I'm this nobody, and I've done all these bad things. Who's going to listen to me? But it's that stepping out in faith and stepping out into obedience and doing what God calls you to do the first time. I didn't get it right
mm.
the first two times, but the third time I was like, you know what? I don't care what it is. I don't care who say what. I'm doing this and I'm doing it right. And that's it. You just have to trust. And a lot of times we say trust the process. I believe trusting the process is just being obedient the first time.
Amen. There you go. That's it. Being obedient. And then everything else will just work itself out. You just be honest with God. You be like, listen, God, I don't know where this is going to end up. I
Yep.
don't understand it, but I'm just going, I'm just going to trust you. And it's crazy because I think about just like even instances in the Bible where it's just like the not having the faith messed the person up. Like even just a simple one when Jesus called Peter out into the water, and
Right.
in the scripture it said he saw the wind, and I was cracking up. I ran to my husband. I'm like, did you know that Peter saw the wind and he started to like lose sight, like took
Right.
his eyes off Jesus and started to sink? I'm like, that must have been some serious anxiety to see the wind, because as much as I'm like very in tune with nature and just being around, I'm like, I've never saw wind.
Right.
Even like,
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
It's not
The trees gotta be blowing, but where's trees in the water? You know what I'm
that.
saying? So it's crazy that
That's
even just
the
like
point.
that moment, and Jesus had to snap at him, like, man, grabbed him like, oh, ye of little faith. And that was the other part. He was so close to the point that Jesus could just even caught him. So
Yeah.
he was this close to just, meeting Jesus like eye to eye. And he just took his eyes off Jesus, and then he just started sinking. And Jesus had to grab him like, oh, ye of little faith. Like, man, you were this close. Like, what's wrong? And I feel like that's how we are.
Yeah.
When we're pursuing purpose, or when God has called us to pursue purpose, and we're just like not like, we're not, finding our strength in him. We're not, it's just like, I don't know. It's just weird. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It's just, we need to just have that faith. And that's the faith that we're trying to talk about, like taking action. It's not just saying, oh, I'm a Christian. Oh, I'm a believer. I have my faith. It's more
Right.
so like
It's putting in the
doing
work.
putting in the work. Like how we say action speaks louder than words. Can you
Yeah.
imagine being in a relationship with somebody and they're always talking about some, oh, baby, I love you, or like you my number
Right.
one, and then you don't never hear from that person ghosts. They're super inconsistent. They don't return your phone calls. The text message is like, oh my God, you feel like
Right.
maybe they changed the number on you or something like that. So like that's not me. Like I feel like, when we act like that, it's like that's how God feels. Like, man, you don't even believe that I'm the God of all gods, King above all
Right.
kings. Like you're not reverencing me like it's somebody. And then like tell me your take on this, because I had another revelation too, and I was on a prayer call, and the prophet was like, we need to be in a season where we shift our ask, shift our
Oh,
language, because
right.
we've been just asking God for the same old things over and over and over, and just believing him for the same little things. Like we in season, like we supposed to be like along and moving up in season 8, and we still believing and trusting God for the same things that got us through season 1 and season 2. Like what is your like take on that, on changing the language of prayer? Like how do you know like how big you can ask, and how do you push yourself to ask bigger?
For me, and I don't know why, but obedience is just in my ear. I think that a lot of times we shrink, and we, as you said, we allow ourselves to be in season 3 when we're supposed to be in season 8. But I think that if we were obedient the first time around, when God said to move, or God spoke to us in whatever way, everybody has their different ways of communicating with God. If we were to move the first time around when he spoke, we wouldn't be scared to then match him and say, okay, well, this is what I need. This is where I'm coming from. This is what I see for my next season, or this is what I believe you're telling me to do for my next season. And this is what I need you to deliver. A lot of times we, what's the word? We cause ourselves to look small in his eyes. And then let's say a big thing is, and I've been reading this a lot, where we allow our mistakes, we allow our disobedience, we allow all the bad things we've done, right? We know we're not supposed to do it, we did it, and now we come in front of God, and now we know we want the things, we know we want the big things, we know we need to ask for more, we know we're supposed to be at a certain level, but we allow that fear of, oh, but God is going to shun me, so now I can't ask him for this thing, now I got to get back right, or we run away from him, and then we don't ask for what we want to begin with. Not knowing that God is not holding us, not to say not holding us accountable, but he's not tallying up, oh, she made 10 mistakes today and I'm not doing this, and she cussed 12 times and she like, he's not looking at all those things. Yes, he wants you to come in, he wants you to repent, he wants you to, you know, be one with him, so that you're not out here just making these silly mistakes, not doing these. He wants you to be able to be in alignment with him, yes, but at the same time, that shouldn't prevent you from elevating and doing what you do to get where you need to go. He called you the first time, you should have answered. Now you feel like, oh my God, well, I'm not his child no more, so I can't do this. I can't daddy and ask him for these things, because he's not gonna say yes.
That makes sense. You know, as you were talking, I had a picture of like a young boy putting himself in timeout while his mom was trying to get him to go outside and practice football, because she know that he's gonna be the next, you know, like NFL star. And he's like, no, but mommy, I was bad. I'm gonna stay in this corner. Like, listen, your timeout is over. Let's go outside and run this football right quick, because I need you to move on and elevate, because this is not where it's at. This corner is already, you already been in that corner. Let's go. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I got that in, I don't know, God, this guy's a good sense of humor, because that's what I picture. I feel like we put ourselves in timeout and give ourselves this like punishment. It's like we put ourselves in the doghouse with God, when he's like already like, listen, I forgave you. I already knew you were gonna do that. I had a plan A, B, and C for each direction that you was gonna go in. Okay, so I'm working it out for your good. Just don't try me, because you know I'm not gonna keep letting you get away with this. But I'm already over that, because God is like, he has a mission. The mission is to expand the kingdom. So if we out here putting ourselves in timeout and condemning ourselves, like somebody said in the comment, it's like God can't stretch our hearts, and he can't stretch our minds, because we're just closed off in this guilt and shame. And he doesn't want us to live there, because he's like, no, I sent my only begotten son to clear all of that. Your debt is already paid. Like, I need you to, you know what I'm saying? I need you to be your best self, because I created you to do something, and I see you a certain way in a certain capacity, and I need you to elevate your mindset to that.
And I'm glad you said that. Mindset is everything. Whether it has to do with faith, whether it has to do with being a better Christian, being a better person, mindset is everything. And that's a lesson I feel like I had to learn the hard way. A lot of things, like I had the big visions, I had the big dreams, I had the big goals, and I would always write them down. Every year I write them down, like top 5 things I want for this year, or top whatever. And then halfway through the year, I'm like, no. I remember when, I think it was 2021, 2019, I had put on my vision board, build the brand, empower the future. And I don't know what happened in 2019. I couldn't tell you what happened. Somewhere along the line, I was just like, all right, like maybe next year, like maybe this, and I pushed it off. And then in 2020, I got to a point where I was in network marketing, and they kept giving us books. Nothing. Hey, network marketing is, if it's one pivotal lesson I learned, it was about
about what?
Self-development.
Yes, definitely.
I am at a space now where I want to help women to better themselves. They kept giving us books, like self-help books, whatever the case may be.
Yes.
The more I read it, is the more I felt small. Every single, I kept feeling small. I kept feeling like, okay, they were telling me like, you have the power, and you can do this, and you can do that. And I'm just like, but I'm not sure about that. And it was all a mindset thing. I had to shift mindset to believe that I could do these things, because if not, they were never going to happen. It had nothing to do with I like to think that I'm shy. I like to think that I'm reserved. I'm very introverted. It had nothing to do with that. Right. And so even when it comes on to speaking, going live, catch me last year this time, you would never find me live going on IG.
I would have got to know.
Ever. But it took a mindset shift. Like, okay, but if God is calling me to deliver these women who I think are my women, because I see them every day. They come to me and they're like, oh, but you're so confident. I'm like, okay, what you don't know is I had to do all this ABC all the way down to Z, come back and rewind to get to this point. So it's a mindset shift. A lot of people think, oh, like you have to be this perfect Christian, you have to be this perfect thing. And we put ourselves in these timeouts, but it's like, as you said, he already paid for our debts. He already been there, done that. We now have to elevate to the mindset that we can do these things and we are called to do these things and we're okay. We make mistakes, we bounce back up and move on.
And I feel like the part of the groundwork of having that mindset shift is unpacking like the root cause of these fears and this negative self-perception. Like you have to figure out where did that come from, because even for me personally, I'm going to get personal. Like I know that when I was growing up, I was getting picked on left and right. Like you talk about these braces, I got braces again for the third time in my life. Okay, so I'm still like, oh my God, these braces, because it's attached to a specific insecurity. But I have to realize, okay, Crystal, you are more than just these braces. Like, what else do you have to offer? Like, why are you looking at the cons when you know that you are intelligent, you are a woman of God, you have a light. You know what I'm saying? So you have to look at where where these negative thoughts are stemming from. It could be like a childhood trauma. It could be like, things that people were telling you all your life when you were growing up, and even things that you talking to yourself. Like I had to be careful with the way I speak to myself, because I was just used to like, oh my God, I'm kind of slow. Like I used to say that, but I realized that I'm planting this seed and I'm like speaking it into existence. So every time I go to do something, even if it's like a little mistake, I already self-defeated myself, because I'm like, oh my God, well, I'm slow. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you have to overcome all these things, and like this like trauma and these hurt and these like unforgiveness that you have to unpack, so that way you can make the mindset shift, so you can put those things beneath you and just be elevated, like you mentioned.
Right. And so I'm glad you said that. A lot of times it's rooted in something deeper, and we either, one, aren't aware, or we choose to ignore it. But then when we get to that point where we're thriving in life and life is great and we're prospering in purpose, and it's like something comes up out the blue, and then you're like, wait, hold on a minute. What is happening here? Like, where did this come from? I wasn't ready for this. But it's like, but you didn't deal with the problems you had before. You didn't acknowledge them before. You didn't set out intentionally to get these things in line. You kept, like, we're under the impression that, okay, we're just going to shift that to the side and we're just going to keep going, because and fake it till you make it. I forgot where I saw this today, and I was just like, but I am done faking it. And I think when I stepped into purpose, I was just like, but it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to not have it all figured out. It's okay to, like, it's okay. As you said, like, all these things happen to you in childhood. That's okay too. But guess what? Anymore. I'm gonna arise from that. I'm going to step out of that, and I'm gonna say, okay, but this is me, and these are all the things that happened for me. They didn't happen to me. These are things that help to make me who I am.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And to add to that, it's like you have to live in your truth so that you can know what to deal with. If you're faking it, you ain't fooling nobody but yourself, because you're going to be in this denial. You're going to just be like, okay to the world. As long as the world sees that I'm okay. But then when you turn around, like in behind closed doors, like you literally just like become like this, like hole of dark, like a black dark hole inside your soul. You're like, oh my God, like I just have nothing to live for. You know what I'm saying? And that's not a good place to be.
And
You're suffering. Yeah, you're suffering in silence, and the people that can relate to you are suffering in silence, and then ain't nobody getting healed, ain't nothing getting done. So it's just like, I feel like if we just drop the facades and the mask, then, you know, we can really get that healing that we need so that the world can be a better place. Because I always say that, you know, all the toxicity and the, you know, the corruption just is because of this web of just hurt. You know, people treat people a certain way because of their hurt, or they're spectating, you know, what the person may do to them because of a past, you know, experience. And that's not even the case. So we're not even giving each other a chance to prove ourselves to each other because of, you know, that underlining insecurity or underlining fear.
100%. And I meant to say this before. You talked about also what you say. What am I saying?
How you
What you say.
speak to yourself.
And it's funny because there's a book, What You Say When You Talk to Yourself, by Shad Helmstetter, if I got that right. And again, one of the books that I had to read. When I say it yoked me up, it got me to a point where I was in, wow. I'm not a really optimistic person, am I? Like, I really had to stop and think of all the things that I say to myself on a daily basis. And it's little things. Sometimes we think it's like, oh, you know, like this grant. No, it could be every day, 10 times for the day. You'd be like, I can't. And the times that I say I can't for the day, and it took me thinking about the things I say to myself.
Yes. Wow.
Listening to how I was speaking to myself. I had to be intentional about paying attention to my subconscious thoughts, because a lot of times we don't even think about that. And as you said, a lot of times our fears, our insecurities are rooting in past traumas, and we don't think of how those past traumas are in our subconscious day in, day out, and we operate from that place of fear and insecurity. And that too contributes to the problem. So, you know, the people in our past, and listening to past situations, past relationships, and how they play out and what they did to us and all these things. We listen to our subconscious. We listen to the things we say to ourselves. And so, of course, it's impossible to have faith as the next best step and to have faith as the action word, right? Because we're listening to all these insecurities that are saying, oh, but you can't do it because of all these things that happened in the past.
Wow. So I know that you have your program that you know you're developing called Thrive, Not Survive. So, you know, walk us through that, you know, that shift from thriving to surviving, and what are some practical steps that for anybody that may be listening right now that may be saying, you know what, my mind is, you know, really got me in this battlefield. What can I do to move to that place of thriving? Just a little tidbit, not too much, because I know that's your thing.
So I'll just start with the basics. Surviving, and I wrote a blog post about this today too. Surviving for me was day in, day out, just doing the same things, same routines, not thinking about what I'm doing, waking up, you know, going to work. And after a while, I felt like I was burnt out from specifically, because that's what really pushed me. I was burned out, and I started to look for other things in different places. Oh, where can I, like, maybe I should do this instead. Maybe I should do that instead. And when I looked up the definition of survive last night, it had said something to the mode of doing things in spite of them causing you danger or harm. And so it stuck out to me, and I was like, pause, I'm sorry. So you're saying that if I'm just surviving in life, I'm basically doing myself a danger. I'm doing myself a disservice. I'm just sitting here, just surviving, just going with the motions. Just, okay, I'm alive. Okay, cool. I'm not, there's no purpose. There is no fire being lit for me to wake up and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do today. I'm going to crush these goals. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to, I don't know, whatever it is that lights a fire inside of you. People who are surviving don't have that light or that fire. And a lot of times what I see is that, again, they're going with emotions. So it's almost like they're just like, all right, well, when I get to 65 and retirement, and maybe when I get these $10,000, maybe when I win the lotto, but they never take those steps. They never put into work. They never put in action to actually saying, well, these are the steps that I'm going to take because I want to thrive in life. And so for me, It may sound like, but for me, purpose was that mindset shift. Purpose was that thing that said to me, okay, like, it's not about your career. It's not about your title. It's not about tradition. It's not about what everybody else says you're supposed to be. It's about what your joy is. It's about finding your
Mm.
joy. It's about discovering what you do well and how you can influence the world. And for me, that's what thriving meant. It had nothing to do with anybody else had to say about me or my life or what they thought I should be doing. It had everything to do about what I thought about myself, who I wanted to be, what I wanted to become.
I hear you.
I
Wow. So
yeah,
basically,
go ahead.
sorry, go ahead. I
No,
thought you
I'm
were.
just
Okay. So basically, what I'm hearing you say is surviving is just doing what you got to do to get by. And
mhm.
thriving is just like, that moment where you like, you flourish. You're like on this, like this new, like path. It's like kind of like everything was black, white, and gray. And then when you hit that point, it's like everything becomes colorful and
Yeah.
more, you just have a different outlook, something to live for and
And
something to look forward to.
it as you said, everything looks you're for me, it's like I was awake. I saw things in a different light. Now I'm not just doing it for the sake of doing it. Now I'm like, okay, but this is meaningful to me.
Wow.
That was the game changer. Once I found that, okay, these things have meaning and that's where I want to be. That's what I want to do. That's how I want to influence. That it was a wrap after that.
Wow. And that just brings me to a point about how purpose, when I always for me, what I, love to talk about is that purpose, it just like naturally breeds intentionality.
Mhm.
So when you said, like purpose just means like, oh, you're not just doing things just to do it. You're doing it because you have an intention. You have a goal. You're trying, you want to impact, you want to make a difference in the world. You want to touch somebody, even if it's just one person.
Right?
So when you have that in your mind, it causes you naturally to be intentional
Yeah.
because now you have this vision, you have this bigger goal, you have this bigger picture. So now, like when you go to work, you may not have really love like to go to work, but you're like, you know what? I can go to work. I'm gonna do this overtime. I'm not excited to do this overtime, but guess what? This is gonna allow me to pay the printing company to print the books that I really want to get out to the young ladies about how to journal your trauma and move from surviving to thriving. You get what I'm saying? So I don't know who's listening out there, but listen, it, finding your purpose makes life worth living. That's all we're saying right now with so many words. You're like, you have this intention. You're like, yes, you know what? I don't really like this job, but I'm gonna do it with a smile on my face because guess what? I got something that I'm doing that gives me that joy. So it's not like you just stuck on this one thing and then like you don't have that balance of something that brings you joy. You know what I'm saying? You have something to look forward to. That's
And
amazing.
added to that though, because I feel like sometimes people will see it and be like, oh, like, so now you're telling me like my job isn't this. It has nothing to do with that. Yes, our job is sometimes it's the vehicle that we need to help to fuel the passions and the purpose and the visions. Yes. But also what I've found recently, I have days when I go to work and I'm like, I do not want to be here. Like, send me home.
Mm.
There are days when I go in and I'm like, oh my God, like I made a difference in somebody's life and this is all I needed today and I'm good and I
Mm-hmm.
can.
Yes.
And there are days when I go in and I'm teaching somebody and I'm like, you know what, but I can impart knowledge into this person and I can make a difference in this person and that's all I need. And so lately I've been again shifting my mindset from thinking, like, okay, like I'm going to get my big picture or my big break one day. Maybe sometimes the lessons are also rooted in your valley, in your journey. It's not so much about the destination all the time. It's about your journey as well. So lately for me, yes, burnout is real. Yes, I have my off days, but there's always a lesson and a blessing in wherever you are. And that to me, purpose allowed me to see that. It allowed me to be intentional wherever I am.
Yes, yes. I love that. See, I took it at an angle of strategy. You went to the heart. So that's definitely good because that just made no, that's true. That made me realize that because it's like you could have a patient and you know, although you're there to treat the diagnosis, you know, give them pain medication or whatever the case may be, but you may know the background of what they're going through, maybe in like as far as like their personal situation. And you know, you can actually speak to that and minister to them. Like we said, it's a ministry, and you minister to them and you give them breakthrough. And once they get out of that hospital and they get discharged, they left with more than just physical healing, but now they have this soul healing. And then they'll always remember you for that.
Yep.
And that's beautiful. That's powerful. That's powerful. I like the fact that you took it to the intentionality of that too, like exercising the gifts that God showed you that you have, not only just for business and ministry, but to use it where you are, because guess what? That's your breeding ground. And it's crazy because I always love to reference the story of David, because when David was tending to the sheep, he was just doing his thing, you know, slingshot, you know, protecting the sheep, you know, from the bears and the wolves and the lions and stuff. But he wasn't thinking, oh yeah, you know what? I'm bigger than this. I don't even know why I got this slingshot. I could do more. You know what I'm saying? I'm bigger than these sheep and all that stuff. He was so proud to be out there and so humble and just, you know, and when the oil ain't flow on the other brothers, the prophet turned and said, okay, who else you got around here? Because God sent me here and told me that the oil was going to flow. I need to know where the oil going to flow. So I got goosebumps. Thank you, Holy Spirit. It's just like, we got to let our oil flow wherever we are. It doesn't even matter. If God said, Crystal, you are supposed to, you know, touch 1 million people, whatever the case may be, the first 1,000 may be in the hospital. And that's a count. And then I got, you know, 1,000 minus 1 million. You know, that's the rest that I got to go and touch. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, we can't always make it like this big, overwhelming thing. That's when we begin to feel like, you know, we're not doing enough or we're not doing anything. And that also can feed into your fears. You have to feel accomplished in everything that God, you know, with everything that God put inside of you, whether it's seen or not seen or understood or not understood. It's just a matter of having that, like you said, that fulfillment that you're doing what, number one, it makes you happy, and also that it pleases God.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up gifts, and I'm gonna just hit on this briefly. For me, purpose meant my comfort zone, just in a nutshell. Like things that I start to think about now, as I said before, like you may be in a hospital and you have to hit that 1,000 patients. You know, like those are the people you are meant to serve in this season so that you can get to your million. Who knows?
Amen. Wow.
A lot of times we downplay what we have, we downplay where we are, and a lot of us overlook what we have because we look at somebody else's grass and, oh, their grass is green, so, you know, like, I don't know what to do with mine over here because their grass is greener. It has nothing to do with that. It has a lot to do with watering what you already have. You have the seeds in the ground. You just need to water them to see them grow. Your grass not going to grow if you don't water it. So a lot of times we have the gifts, we have the talents, we have the purpose, and purpose is not something you look for. And I had to learn this the hard way because when I was venturing out and doing all these other things, I'm like, but I'm so confused. I already had a vision in here. Why am I going in out here to serve somebody else's business and somebody else's vision? And so a lot of times, again, we venture out, we don't cultivate what we already have. And that's the problem. You got to start with what we have. We got to start with the voice, my teeny tiny shy reserved voice that I don't like going live and I don't like being on video, all these things. But I'm gonna talk a little bit though, because somebody needs to hear what I have to say.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, you were meant to hit hearts and souls wherever it is that you are, but a lot of us don't want to do that. We don't want to do it. We shrink. We don't think we're capable. And God is just saying, you just have to open your mouth. You just gotta write. You just gotta show up in the room. That's it.
That's true. That's powerful. That's powerful. I remember one time, I promised you I was ready to go. I had got report. I was done at 7:05. But there was people that like I was already giving advice to during the shift, like, you know, ministering to them about the problems that I could relate to. And I ended up staying after the shift, like still talking to them. People like, Crystal, why are you still here? I'm like, man, listen, I'm just being obedient. You know, I bet probably some of them was like, what's she talking about obedient? But it's like, I had to just be obedient, like just do what I had to do. Because at the end of the day, I don't know if that person, it was the last straw and they was probably gonna like, go through this nervous breakdown, but Holy Spirit allowed me to go and say a few words to get them to kind of like pull themselves together and, try it all over again.
And that's faith in action. That's going with it. That's going with God's flow. That's my latest thing. Growing and glowing and going with God's flow. Like,
amen.
You may never always understand what is happening, when it's happening. A lot of times, as you said, like as nurses, it's 7:30. It's time for me to clock out. Like, why are we still here? But you never know. Sometimes somebody may come with you with a work-related question, and the advice you give them or whatever it is that you have to say to them might open their mind up to so many more things that have to do with that will touch on, as you said, their last straw, something that they're going through that you may never know. But that's just it. It's faith in action, to trust God to do whatever he tells you to do in that moment, because you never know who you may be ministering to, or you never know. And that's the beauty of it.
That's true. Amen. Amen. Obedience is better than sacrifice. You want to sacrifice somebody's sanity because you're trying to go home.
Yep.
You got to be like, okay, God, because if it was you, you'd want somebody to take the time to hear you out and really give you a perspective that can give you a light of hope. So we also got to look at it that way too, because what goes around comes around. So whatever you sow, you shall reap.
Yep.
So I would want somebody, if I was in a kind of a dark space, I would want them to shed some light on my situation. So we got to, look at that like we're doing God's work, because a lot of people always be like so shocked when they see somebody who's like, lighthearted and kind and things like that, like they're a unicorn. I'm like, it shouldn't be like that. We should be like, it should be so normal that people are conversating and just, really ask you how you're doing and really want to know how you're doing. Because I'm on the elevator with strangers. I make conversation. I make small talk because people need to know that it's okay. We don't got to act like all stiff and, like the world is just so rough. We got to just kind of lighten up. So we got to be that change that we want to see. So that's amazing. That's amazing. Is there anything you want to touch on before, we move on to the rapid fire questions?
This has been a lot already. Like, my heart is full. I'm so happy to be here.
Good. I'm happy that you're here. And I mean, the people are loving it. They're like, they could relate. So that's good. We're touching on some things that people needed to be, encouraged and enlightened about. So that's amazing. So the rapid fire questions is just to have a little fun. I'm going to ask you a couple questions, and in 4 words or less, you're going to answer the question and tell us about yourself based on the question, okay? What is one thing that you've discovered about yourself personally that really helps your physical or mental health?
You said 4 words or less?
4 words or less. What do you want to say?
All right. Wait, repeat the question.
What is one thing that you have discovered personally about yourself that really helps your mental or physical health?
All right. 4 words or less. Owning my authenticity.
Beautiful. What's one of the biggest lessons you've learned about wealth?
The biggest lesson is that I define it.
Amen. When you're not working, what do you like to do that makes you genuinely happy?
This can't be a 4. I can't do this.
Okay, go ahead. Just do a freestyle on that one then.
I find some way, somehow, to pour into whoever, wherever, whatever woman. I just find some way to pour into them. I find some way to enlighten them, to encourage them, to let them know that it's okay, to let them know that they can thrive.
Wow, that's beautiful. What's one thing you're excited about that's coming up for you this quarter?
My coaching program.
Beautiful. And if you had to describe your business with a song, what song would it be?
Ooh, Golden.
Any genre.
Golden by Joe Scott.
You know what? You give me them vibes. And you know what's so funny? When I asked you what is one thing that you genuinely like to do that makes you happy, I was going to guess lighting candles. Because you have like this airy, light, spirit about you.
I do.
Yes, I know you do. That's why I'm like, why she didn't say lighting candles? But that's a whole nother topic. I'm glad you find your happiness in talking to people. That's good. The backup answer is the lighting the candles. Awesome. So let everybody know where they can connect with you and anything that you have that they can tap into if they really want to go deeper into moving from survival mode to thriving.
Okay. So you can connect with me on Instagram _AshRJames_, or you can find me every Monday with a new blog post at www.ownyourauthenticity.com. Something to look out for. I do have a coaching program called Thrive, Not Survive. That's going to be airing on May 30th. May 30th, yes. Sunday, May 30th. And 7-week incubator talking about thriving, everything that has to do with purpose, healing, and just living your best life on purpose.
Beautiful. And if you don't know who I am, my name is Crystal Kajas. I am a certified prosperity strategist. I teach women how to transition from career to purpose so that they can win in life and business. So follow me if you don't know me, but yeah. So it was a pleasure. Great.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. It was such a fruitful and, refreshing conversation. I can say that. Yes, definitely.
100%.
All right. Have a blessed night.
You have a blessed night, my love. Thank you.
Okay. No problem. Thank you.